Day one stood before the council chamber, his hands trembling slightly as he held the data pad. The vast circular room stretched around him, filled with representatives from dozens of alien species, their eyes some multiple, some glowing, some barely visible, all focused on him with varying degrees of skepticism. Honorable council members, he began, his voice steadier than he felt, I have spent 7 years studying the ruins on forgotten sector worlds. What I found contradicts everything we know about humans. A ripple of dismissive sounds echoed through the chamber. Humans were a joke in galactic history, a primitive species that destroyed itself in nuclear fire. Thousands of years ago, every child learned about them as a cautionary tale about self-destruction. The archaeological evidence shows advanced technology. Day one continued, projecting images onto the chamber's holographic display. Reactor designs we cannot replicate. Weapons that make our current arsenal look primitive. Mathematical formulas that solve problems our greatest scientists cannot crack. Ambassador Vex, a tall being covered in chitinous plates, clicked his mandibles in what might have been laughter. Young historian, you waste our time with fairy tales. We face a real crisis. The Christian Empire has invaded 4 sectors in the past month. Before day one could respond, the chamber doors burst open. Hannah strode in, still wearing her military uniform, her face grim. Forgive the interruption, Council, I bring urgent news from the front lines. The council leader gestured for her to speak. Hannah's words were crisp and professional, but day one could hear the fear beneath them. The Christians have taken the Valaris colonies. 3 billion civilians are now under their control. Our fleet cannot match their numbers or their brutality. They execute prisoners. They bombard civilian centers. In 3 months of fighting, we have lost 40% of our military strength. Silence fell over the chamber like a heavy blanket. General Cross, a scarred veteran from the warrior species called the hegemony guard, stood slowly. His massive frame cast shadows across the floor. We need allies. We need weapons. We need something the Koreans do not expect. We have no allies left to call. Ambassador Vex said quietly, every species capable of fighting is already with us. We are losing this war. Cross looked around the chamber, his eyes distant, as if remembering something from long ago. My grandmother told me stories when I was young, stories her grandmother told her about the ghosts. Several council members shifted uncomfortably. Day one leaned forward suddenly. Very interested. She said that long ago, before the Christians became an empire, they were raiders and pirates. They attacked weak colonies and took what they wanted. Then they encountered the ghosts, beings that appeared from nowhere, destroyed their fleets without mercy and vanished. The Koreans learned fear. They stopped raiding for 3 generations. Superstition, Ambassador Vex said, but his voice lacked conviction. Perhaps, Cross acknowledged. But my grandmother believed, she said. The ghosts were real, and she said they had another name. They were called humans. The chamber erupted in noise. Some laughed, others argued. Daewon felt his heart racing. He pushed forward, calling out over the din, Council leader, please. General Cross may be right. In my research I found coordinates, a star sector marked in ancient Christian navigation charts as forbidden space. They labeled it with a symbol that translates roughly to the place where hunters live. Hana turned to look at him, her eyes sharpened. Calculating. Do you have these coordinates? A yes, but the sector has been under quarantine for over 3,000 years. No one goes there. Every probe we have sent has disappeared without sending back data. Or someone made them disappear, Hana said softly. The council leader raised his primary appendage for silence. When the chamber quieted, he spoke in his deep, resonant voice. These are desperate times. We discuss myths and legends while our people die. Historian. Day 1 military officer Hana. I cannot officially sanction an expedition to a quarantine sector. However, I will not notice if a small unofficial reconnaissance vessel goes missing for a few days. Day 1 understood immediately. The council leader was giving them permission without giving them permission. If they failed or died, the council could deny any knowledge. If they succeeded, the council could claim credit. I will need a ship and a small crew, Hana said. Take whatever you need from the reserve depot, the council leader replied. But know this, if you find nothing, we will have wasted resources we desperately need. If you find something dangerous, you may doom us all. And if you find humans, he paused, remember that they vanished for a reason. Perhaps they do not wish to be found. That evening, Day 1 stood in the observation deck of a small scout ship, watching stars streak past as they jumped to faster than light speed. Hana stood beside him, checking her weapons with practice. Efficiency. Do you really think they exist? She asked without looking up. Day 1 touched the data pad in his pocket, feeling the weight of 7 years of research. I think something is out there. Whether it is humans or something else, we will soon find out. And if they are hostile, then we run very, very fast. Hana smiled grimly. I like your optimism. The ship shuddered slightly as it dropped out of jump space. Through the viewport they could see an invisible shimmer in space. Like heat waves on a summer day, it surrounded an entire star cluster, hiding whatever lay within. They had found the quarantine zone. They had found the place where hunters lived. Now they just had to survive. Meeting them, the scout ship drifted in the silence of space, keeping a respectful distance from the shimmer that surrounded the forbidden sector. Hana stood on the bridge watching her sensor officer June work frantically at his console. It is impossible, June muttered, his fingers dancing across the holographic displays. The energy readings make no sense. This barrier extends for 12 light years in every direction. The power required to maintain it would drain a star dry in seconds. Mira, the xenobiologist, looked up from her own station. Her expression was troubled. I am detecting life signs behind the barrier. Millions of them, maybe billions, but they do not match any known species pattern. Day 1 felt his mouth go dry. Can you get more detailed readings? No. The barrier reflects our scans. It is like trying to see through a mirror. Hana made a decision. Send a standard greeting message on all frequencies. Let them know we come in peace. June nodded and began transmitting. They waited in tense silence. Minutes passed, then an hour, then 3 hours. Nothing. June finally said, either no one is home, or they are ignoring us, or they are deciding whether to respond. Day 1 suggested quietly. Hana walked to the viewport and stared at the barrier. Prepare to move closer. If they do not want us here, they will tell us. Commander, that might be dangerous. Mira protested. Everything About this mission is dangerous. Move us. Forward slowly the ship crept toward the barrier, covering the distance in careful increments. When they were only a few kilometers away, something changed. The shimmer intensified. The bridge lights flickered. Then a voice spoke through their communication system. It was clear, calm, and speaking. Perfect. Valeri, unidentified vessel. State your purpose for approaching the barrier. Everyone on the bridge froze. Jun and LT, Unk, and GT's hands hovered over his console. Mira stopped breathing for a moment. Hana recovered first. This is Commander Hana of the Hegemony Alliance. We seek contact with the inhabitants of this sector. We need help. Another long silence. Then the voice spoke again. Wait, that is it, June whispered. Just wait. We wait, Hana confirmed. 7 hours passed. The crew took turns resting, eating, and monitoring the barrier. Nothing changed. Day 1 was in the galley drinking something that approximated coffee when alarms blared. Throughout the ship he ran to the bridge. On the main screen a ship was emerging from the barrier. It was small, perhaps the size of their scout vessel. Its hull was smooth and dark, reflecting starlight in strange ways. It moved with impossible grace, as if space itself bent around it. I am getting readings now, Jun said, his voice shaking. That ship is made from materials I cannot identify. Its power signature is off any scale I have ever seen. Commander, if that ship wanted to destroy us, I do not think our shields would even slow it down. The mysterious vessel came to a stop a few hundred meters away. A new image appeared on their screen. It showed a humanoid figure sitting in what looked like a command chair. He appeared young, perhaps 30 years old by hegemony standards. His hair was dark, his eyes were bright and alert. He wore a simple uniform with no visible weapons. I am T-Jin, diplomatic officer, he said in flawless Velari. Then he switched to several other languages, naming each one. I can speak your language and 47 others currently in use across the galaxy. Which would you prefer? Well, Hana found her voice. Valeria is fine. You are human. I am. T-Jin smiled slightly. I understand this must be surprising. Your historical records claim we are extinct. Are you alone out here? Far from it. I represent approximately 400 billion humans living in this sector. We have watched your people for a long time, Commander Hana. We know about your war with the Christians. We know you are losing. Day 1 pushed forward to the screen. Then, you know we need help. The Christians are slaughtering civilians. They will not stop until they control everything. Please, if you have the technology I have seen in the ruins, you could end this war. T-Jin and LT, Unk, and GT's expression became serious. Historian. Day 1. Yes, I know your name. I have read your research papers. They are quite accurate. Your conclusions about our civilization are mostly correct. Then help us, Mira pleaded. It is not my decision to make, T-Jun said. I will take your request to my people. We will discuss it. This may take time. We do not have time, Hana said urgently. I understand. But you must understand something as well. My people left the galaxy for reasons, very good reasons. Asking us to return is asking us to become something we chose to leave behind. That is not a simple request. Jun spoke up hesitantly. What did you leave behind? Tae-Jin was quiet for a moment. When he spoke, his voice was heavy with old pain. We were soldiers, weapons, Every species that gained power used us to fight their wars. We were very good at killing, too. Good, we forgot how to be anything else. So we stopped, we built this barrier. And we focused on being human again. Now you ask us to pick up weapons once more only to protect the innocent. Daewon said softly, that is what they all said. Taejin replied, but I will present your case, I promise you that. Before anyone could respond, Taejin leaned forward in his chair, his casual demeanor vanished, replaced by something cold and hard. One more thing you found us because you were clever and desperate. Do not mistake our willingness to talk for weakness. Do not attempt to cross this barrier. Do not send probes or weapons. Do not tell your council where we are until we give permission. If you violate these terms, this conversation ends permanently. The threat was delivered calmly, but everyone on the bridge felt the weight of it. Understood, Hana said. Taejin and LT Unk and GT's expression softened slightly. Good, now let me give you something to take back to your people. The Christians are dangerous, but they are not unstoppable. They rely on fear and brutality. They expect their enemies to break. Show them you will not break, and they will hesitate. By time we will contact you soon. How? Soon. Taejin's ship began backing away toward the barrier, but before he disappeared, he said one last thing. Commander, tell your council something. For me, tell them the Christians believe they are the apex predators of this galaxy. Tell them that Christian belief is wrong. They have simply forgotten why their ancestors learned to fear the dark. The human ship vanished into the barrier. The shimmer returned to its previous state as if nothing had happened. Hana turned to her crew. Set course for council space, maximum speed. Did that just happen? June asked. Quietly, Daewon smiled despite the tension. Humans are real, they are watching, and they might help us or they might not. Mira said, then we fight alone as we have been. Hana replied, but now we know something the Christians do not. The ghosts in their legends are real and they are paying attention, and the ghosts 2 weeks after their return, Hana received a message on a frequency that should not exist. The encryption was unbreakable by hegemony standards, but it decoded itself when she accessed it. The message was simple, coordinates and a time. She was invited to return to the barrier, and she could bring Daewon. Their ship approached the barrier again. But this time, something different happened. A section of the shimmer opened like a door. Taejin and LT Unk and GT's ship appeared and transmitted navigation data. Follow me, his voice said. Simply, stay close and do not deviate from the path. They passed through the barrier. What they saw on the other side made Hana grip her command chair. Space was filled with structures, orbital stations the size of moons, ships of every design from small scouts to massive vessels that dwarfed anything in the hegemony fleet, solar collectors that wrapped around stars like lace, agricultural cylinders that spun slowly in the void. How many people live here? Daewon whispered. 400 billion across 300 systems, Taejin replied over the comm. We have been building for 3,000 years. They passed a planet that looked like it was covered in forests and oceans. Cities were visible, but they blended with nature instead of dominating it. That cannot be Earth, Hana said. Earth was destroyed by nuclear war. Earth was badly damaged, Taejin corrected. We healed it. It took 800 years of careful work. But we healed it, now follow me down. The council is waiting, the landing facility was understated but clearly advanced. They were escorted through corridors that seemed to adjust their lighting and temperature automatically. Finally, they entered a circular chamber, where 5 humans sat at a curved table. The eldest was a woman who looked about 70 years old. Her eyes were sharp and kind. I am Sua, I speak for the civilian government. Welcome to Earth. Next to her sat a younger woman in military uniform. Her left arm was clearly cybernetic along with one eye. Her presence radiated controlled violence. I command our defense forces. Man in his 40s nodded to them. T. Jin, you have already met. I am Jin Woo, Chief Tactical Officer. I plan battles. The other 2 introduced themselves as heads of science and resources. All of them looked at Hana and Daewon with expressions that were polite but guarded. Please sit, Sua said. You came a long way. You must have questions. Why did you leave? Daewon asked. Immediately. Your technology could have protected the galaxy. You could have prevented countless wars. Sua's expression became sad. We did not leave, we fled. Do you know what it is like to be good at only one thing, to have every species view you as weapons instead of people? For 700 years, we fought in wars we did not start and did not care about. Young spoke, her voice flat and hard. We became monsters. Every human child grew up learning to fight. Our art was about war, our music was about battle, our stories celebrated death. We were losing our souls, so we made a choice. Jin Woo continued. We gathered every human we could find. We came back to Earth in our old colonies. We built the barrier. We told the galaxy we were extinct, and we spent 3,000 years remembering how to be more than weapons. Hana leaned forward. I understand that. I respect it. But the Christians are killing billions of innocent people, children, families, entire planets. We are not asking you to conquer. We are asking you to protect. There is no difference, Yumi said coldly. Protection requires violence. Violence requires becoming killers. Again, would you rather watch from behind your barrier while civilizations die? Daewon challenged. Sua raised her hand. For calm, that is the question we have debated for 2 weeks. Our people are divided. Some say we owe the galaxy nothing, others say we cannot hide forever. Still others fear that if we take up weapons again, we will not be able to put them down. What do you fear? Hana asked quietly. Sua met her eyes. I fear becoming what we were, but I also fear my grandchildren, asking why we did nothing, why we let innocents die when we could have helped. Yoongi stood and walked to a wall display. She activated. It's showing tactical data on the Korean military. I have studied your war for 2 weeks. The Christians use outdated tactics. Their weapons are crude. Their strategies rely on overwhelming force and terror from a military perspective. They are not impressive. They are impressive enough to destroy us, Hana said bitterly, because you are fighting their kind of war. They use brutality. So you try to match their brutality. They are barbaric. So you become barbaric. You cannot win that way. Jin Woo activated another display. Humans abandoned these tactics 800 years ago. We learned that wars are won in the mind before they are won on the battlefield. Fear is a weapon, but so is hope. Brutality creates resistance, but precision creates respect. Are you saying you will help Us, Day One asked, hardly daring to hope. The 5 council members looked at each other, some silent communication passed between them. Finally Sua spoke. We will help, but not the way you expect. We will not fight your war for you. We will not send our fleets to crush the Christians. That path leads back to what we were. Hana felt her hope crumbling. Then what will you do? Yoongi smiled, and it was a dangerous expression. We will teach you to fight like humans. We will give you technology you can use. We will show you how to think, how to plan, how to win without becoming monsters. We will send advisors, not armies. Will that be enough? It will have to be, Sua said gently, because that is all we can offer without losing ourselves. But understand this, Commander Hana, when humans commit to something, we do not do it halfway. Our advisors will change your military. Our technology will change your capabilities. Our methods will change how you think about war. If you accept our help, you must trust us completely. Hana stood and bowed in the formal hegemony style. We accept, we will trust you. Please help us save our people. Yami returned the bow. Then we begin. Immediately, Jin Woo and I will return with you. We will need access to your military command, your fleet, and your intelligence. We will need your soldiers to listen to us even when our methods seem strange. You will have whatever you need, Hana promised. Taejin spoke for the first time since they entered the chamber. One more thing, the Christians still tell stories about the ghosts. They remember the fear, even if they do not believe the stories. We will use that fear. We will make them remember why their ancestors stopped raiding. We will make them afraid of the dark again. As they prepare to leave, Day One approached Sua. Thank you for this. I know it was not an easy decision. She smiled sadly. No decision worth making ever is. I just hope we do not regret it. I hope we do not become monsters again. You are protecting the innocent, Day One said. That makes you heroes, not monsters. History will decide that, Sua replied. It always does. The first thing Yumi did when she arrived at Hegemony military headquarters was watch their forces train. She stood in the observation deck for 3 hours, her cybernetic eye recording everything. Jin Woo stood beside her, making notes on a data pad. When the training ended, she called a meeting with every senior officer. General Cross stood at attention with 24 other commanders. They expected praise or at least politeness. They got neither. You train your soldiers to die bravely, Yoongi said bluntly. That is a waste. Dead soldiers win no battles. The Christians want you to be brave. They want you to stand and fight so they can crush you with numbers. Stop giving them what they want. An admiral spoke up angrily. We fight with honor. We do not run from battle. Then you will lose with honor, Jin Woo replied calmly. Tell me, Admiral, how many ships have you lost in honorable battles? The admiral said. Nothing. His silence was answer enough. Young Mi activated a holographic display. It showed a recent battle where the hegemony fleet had been destroyed. You formed a battle line. You traded shots until they overwhelmed you with numbers. You fought exactly as they expected. She changed the display to show a different scenario. Here is what you should have done. You split your forces into small groups. You hit their supply ships from multiple directions. You avoid their main fleet entirely. You make them chase you across empty space while you destroy everything that keeps them fighting. In 3 months their Fleet starves while yours grows. Stronger, that is cowardice, the admiral said. Hana, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. That is survival. We have been losing. For 6 months, I would rather be a living coward than a dead hero. We will learn from them. Over the following weeks, everything changed. Human advisors spread throughout the hegemony. Military, they brought technology that seemed impossible, shields that learned from each attack and adapted weapons that adjusted their frequencies to penetrate enemy defenses. But the technology was secondary to the training. Yumi and Jin Woo restructured the entire military command. They taught officers to think creatively, to question assumptions, to see battles as puzzles rather than contests of strength. Hana found herself leading a special operations unit equipped with human stealth technology. Her team could infiltrate Krithian controlled space undetected. They struck supply depots, destroyed ammunition factories, and assassinated key commanders. The Christians, who had never faced organized resistance, began to suffer losses they could not explain. Jun worked with a human engineer named Han Wu. Together they retrofitted hegemony ships with human jump drives that could move faster and more accurately than anything the Christians possessed. Within a month, the hegemony fleet could strike anywhere and vanish before the enemy could respond. The war began to turn. Christians, confused and angry, escalated. They deployed weapons they had held in reserve, biological agents that killed millions, orbital bombardment of civilian targets, and finally their ultimate weapon, planet burner missiles. The target was Valaris Prime, home to 8 billion civilians. Long-range sensors detected the missile launch. Every calculation showed it could not be intercepted in time. The hegemony fleet was too far away. Ground-based defenses were insufficient. Panic spread throughout the hegemony. This was the end. The Christians would destroy planet after planet until nothing remained. Young Mi stood in the command center watching the missile trajectory. Her expression was calm. She opened a communication channel. Eternal Vigil, this is command. You have new orders. A response came immediately. The voice belonged to a human named Sanhei, captain of one of the few human ships operating openly in hegemony space. Command, we read you. Send coordinates. Intercept the planet burner targeting Valaris Prime. Full defensive measures. Every hegemony officer in the command center turned to stare at Yongmi. That ship is too small to stop that missile. One of them protested. It will be vaporized. Yumi ignored him. Eternal Vigil, confirm orders. Orders confirmed. Beginning intercept maneuver. See you on the other side. The Eternal Vigil was a human cruiser, no larger than a standard hegemony military vessel. It accelerated toward the incoming missile at speeds that should have torn it apart. The missile, loaded with enough explosive power to crack a planet's crust, closed the distance rapidly. Sensors showed impact in 30 seconds. 2010, the missile struck the Eternal Vigil directly. The explosion lit up space like a newborn star. Energy readings went off every scale. The shock wave would be detected on planets dozens of light years away. When the sensors cleared, the command center fell silent. The Eternal Vigil hung in space completely undamaged. Its shields had absorbed the entire blast without even flickering. Sunhai and LT Unk and GTS voice came over the comm, casual and unbothered. Impact confirmed. Shield integrity at 98%. Continuing patrol. Eternal vigil out. Hana stared at the display in shock. How is that possible? Jinwoo smiled. Slightly. Human defensive technology has been perfected over 3,000 years. We learned to protect absolutely that missile. Could not scratch our paint. Why did you not tell us you could do that? Cross demanded. Because you needed to learn to fight first, Yami replied. You needed to be strong on your own. Technology helps, but it does not replace skill and courage. Now you have both. Recording of the interception was broadcast across every hegemony world. More importantly, it was intercepted by every listening post. The message was clear and terrifying. Humanity's defensive capabilities were absolute. In the Christian capital, Warlord Crth watched the recording 7 times. His military advisors stood in silence. Their confidence shattered. The ghosts are real. One of them whispered. They were always real, Krath said slowly. We just forgot. We let ourselves believe we were the strongest. We let ourselves forget that our ancestors feared the dark for a reason. What do? Krath stared at the image of the human ship, untouched by a weapon that should have destroyed it utterly. We prepare for the worst. If the humans decide to truly fight, we cannot win. Our only hope is that they continue to show restraint. But the Koreans had pushed too hard for too long. The humans had shown restraint. They had advised from the shadows. They had let the hegemony fight its own war. That restraint was about to end. Yumi stood in the command center, surrounded by holographic displays showing the entire theater of war. Jinwoo worked beside her, coordinating forces across 100 systems. Hana commanded her strike teams. Jun and Hyun-woo prepared the fleet. It is time, Yumi said. Quietly send the message to Earth. Tell them we need the fleet. Jun, monitoring from the human embassy, nodded. Message sent. The fleet will arrive in 72 hours. What happens in 72 hours? Hina asked. Young Mi's expression was cold and hard. The Kryans learned what it means. When humans stop holding back, they wanted to see the ghosts. Now they will. The combined hegemony and human forces arrived at the edge of the Kryan home system exactly 72 hours later. The hegemony fleet numbered 3,000 ships. They had been rebuilt, retrained, and equipped with human technology. They were confident but cautious. They were not prepared for what emerged from jump space beside them. 30 human warships appeared like ghosts, materializing from nothing. They were not massive dreadnoughts or armored behemoths. They were sleek and elegant, each one a work of engineering art. But sensors showed the truth. Each ship contained more power than the entire hegemony fleet combined. Hana stood on the bridge of her flagship, staring at the human vessels in awe. 30 ships. They sent 30 ships against the entire Christian military. Yumi stood beside her, calm. As always, 30 ships is more than enough. Watch and learn. The Christian home world was protected by the largest military fleet ever assembled. Over 5,000 warships surrounded the planet in defensive formations, orbital weapons platforms, minefields, every defense the Christians could imagine. Warlord Crth broadcast from his command ship. His voice was defiant, almost desperate. So the ghosts finally show themselves. You think you can frighten us with legends and tricks? We are Christian. We do not surrender. We do Not fear, the lead human ship responded. Sunhai and LT Duncan GT's voice was calm and professional. This is Captain Sunhai of the Human Defense Fleet, Warlord Krath. You have heard stories about us. You called us ghosts, legends, myths too. Scare children, your ancestors knew. Better, they knew why to fear the dark. Today you learn the same lesson. We will crush you, Krath snarled. We will show the galaxy that humans bleed like everyone else, perhaps Sunni. Acknowledged, but you will not get the chance to find out. All Christian forces. You have 1 minute to power down your weapons. After that we will do it for you. Krath laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. Attack, destroy them. All the Christian fleet opened fire. 5,000 ships unleashed everything they had: missiles, energy weapons, kinetic projectiles. The space between the fleets lit up with so much weapons fire that it looked like a second star had been born. The human ships did not move. They simply existed in the middle of the firestorm, their shields absorbing everything. Without effort, that is impossible. Jun whispered from his station. Nothing can withstand that much firepower. Human shields can, Hyan Wu said. Quietly, we spent 1,000 years perfecting the art of not dying. It shows. The weapon's fire stopped. Christians had expended their first volley. Smoke and debris clouded sensors. When it cleared, all 30 human ships remained untouched. Not a scratch, not a flicker of damage. Then the humans responded. What followed was not a battle, it was a demonstration. The human ships moved through the Christian fleet like dancers performing a choreographed routine. They were everywhere and nowhere. Their weapons fired with impossible precision, targeting specific systems on enemy ships. A Cryan battleship lost all power, but remained structurally intact. Another lost weapons but retained life support. A third found its engines disabled but its crew unharmed. Ship after ship went dark, not destroyed but completely neutralized. The Corinthians tried to adapt. They launched fighters by the thousands. The human point defense systems eliminated them with such precision that pilots were able to eject before their craft were destroyed. They launched boarding pods. Human tractor beams caught them gently and pushed them away. They tried ramming attacks. Human ships simply moved aside, too fast to track. Krath, watching from his command ship, felt fear for the first time in his life. Target the planet, launch the world burners. If we die, we take the galaxy with us. Dozens of planet killer missiles launched from hidden positions. They were aimed at hegemony worlds, at trade hubs, at civilian centers. It was the Christian final gesture of spite. The human fleet reacted instantly. Every missile was intercepted, not by weapons but by human ships physically interposing themselves. Each missile detonated against shields that did not even notice the impact. All ordnance neutralized. Sunhai reported calmly. No casualties. In 30 minutes the entire Christian fleet was disabled. Not one ship destroyed, not one Christian killed. Most powerful military force in the galaxy reduced to floating debris that happened to still contain living crews. Krath's command ship was the last to fall. Its weapons went offline. Its engine stopped. Its shields collapsed. He sat in his command chair, surrounded by the wreckage of his ambitions, and felt something his people had not felt in generations. Helplessness. Yumi's voice came over the communication channel. Warlord Ciarath, your fleet is disabled. Your Weapons are neutralized. Your people are unharmed. This demonstration is complete. Why? Kroth asked hororously, why did you not kill us? We would have killed you. No, Sunhai replied, that is why we are different. Power without wisdom leads to extinction. You believe strength meant brutality. You were wrong. True strength is having the power to destroy and choosing not to. Krath looked around his bridge. His officers stared at him, waiting for orders that he did not have. What happens now? No, now you rebuild. Yumi said, you will join the galactic community as equals, not conquerors. You will pay reparations for the worlds you damaged. You will release all prisoners. You will dismantle your weapons of mass destruction, and you will remember this day. And if we refuse, there was a pause. Then Tijin's voice joined the channel, speaking directly to the Christian people on every frequency. Then we return, and next time we will not be gentle. You have seen what we can do when we show restraint. Pray you never see what we can do without it. The threat hung in the silence that followed. It was not delivered with anger or malice. It was simply a statement of fact, and that made it more terrifying than any amount of bravado. Krath closed his eyes. We accept your terms. The Christian Empire surrenders. Across the system, Christian ships began powering down their last remaining systems. The war was over. 3 months later, Daewon sat in his office on Valaris Prime, updating the historical records. The entry he wrote would be studied for generations. Humanity, species that vanished from galactic awareness for 3,000 years. They were not extinct as records claimed, but isolationist. When called upon to help in a time of desperate need, they emerged not as conquerors, but as teachers. They fought not to dominate, but to protect. They won not through destruction, but through overwhelming force applied with absolute precision and mercy. They proved that the greatest strength is not the ability to kill, but the wisdom to choose not to. He paused, considering his next words carefully. They are not ghosts. They are not monsters. They are guardians who choose when to act and when to fade back into legend. May the galaxy never need to call upon them again, but if it does, may they answer as they did this time. Hana entered his office carrying 2 cups of the drink they had shared before their first journey to the barrier. Writing history, trying to Daewon admitted, how do you capture something like what we witnessed? You do not. You simply record the facts and let future generations understand the meaning. They stood at the window looking out at the rebuilding city. Human advisors still walked the streets, helping with reconstruction. Jin Woo remained as military liaison. Jin had established a small embassy. The humans had not returned to their barrier. Not yet. Do you think they will stay? Daewon asked. For a while. Long enough to ensure we remember the lessons they taught. Then they will go home. Hana smiled. But they will be watching. They always watch, far above in orbit. Around Valaris Prime, one of the human ships remained on station. On its bridge, Sunhai stood at the viewport, looking down at the world they had saved. Her first officer approached. Captain, we have received orders. We are to return to Earth within the month. Understood, but we stay until the last civilian transport is rebuilt and operational. We protect until there is nothing left to protect from. Yes, Captain. Sunhai watched the planet turn slowly below. Somewhere down there, people were rebuilding their lives. Children played in streets that had been battle zones. families reunited after months of separation. Hope returned to eyes that had known only fear. This is why we came back, she said quietly, not for glory, not for conquest, but for this, for the chance to make things better. By her officer nodded. Do you think the council regrets the decision? Every day, but they would also regret not making it. That is the burden of power. Every choice carries a cost. We just have to ensure the cost is worth paying. On Earth, in the council chamber, Sua stood before the same 5 members who had debated intervention. Months ago, the decision had been made to gradually increase contact with the galaxy, not a full return but a measured presence. We have changed, she said to the assembled council. We picked up weapons again. Some feared we would become what we were, but I think we proved something different. We proved we could use violence without being consumed by it. We proved we could be strong without being cruel. For now, one council member cautioned, but what about next time and the time after that? Each intervention makes the next one easier to justify. Then we remain vigilant. Yumi said she had returned to Earth. Her mission complete. We set rules. We establish limits. We remember why we isolated ourselves, and we never forget. That power is a tool, not an identity. Sua looked at the faces around the chamber. The galaxy knows we exist now. We cannot return to total isolation, but we can choose how we engage. We can be mentors instead of soldiers, teachers instead of conquerors, guardians instead of rulers until they need soldiers. Again someone said, then we decide. Again Sua replied, each time, every time. We never make it automatic. We never make it easy, because the moment it becomes easy to choose violence is the moment we lose our souls. The vote was taken. Humanity would maintain limited contact with the galaxy, advisors, teachers, a small fleet to respond to genuine threats, but no armies, no occupation, no empire building. Back on Valeris Prime, as evening fell, Hana stood on a balcony and looked up at the stars. Somewhere out there behind an invisible barrier, 400 billion humans lived their lives in peace. They had built a civilization without war. They had healed their damaged world. They had found balance, and when called upon, they had helped, not because they wanted to, not because it was easy, but because it was right. Until next time. Hana whispered to the stars, thank you. Ghosts. In the darkness of space, the human ships began their journey home. One by one they jumped to faster than light speeds and vanished. Soon only the running lights of the last ship remained, a small bright point against the vast darkness. Then it too disappeared. The ghosts had returned to their legends, but everyone knew the truth now. They were real. They were watching, and if needed they would stand on the battleground.